Brooklyn starting off with an 0-2 record since Kyrie's return, always subject to change. They've got a big three and they're trying to work things out. Conversely, the Los Angeles Lakers on the road 8-0. Tremendous efforts by the Lakers. Can they continue that streak as they play tonight? Hey there, we welcome you inside the studio. I'm Stephanie Reddy, joined by Greg Anthony and Channing Frye. We got a lot on tap for you tonight on the CarMax pregame show. We're going to get you ready, of course, for the game that will be on our air, but we will discuss some other things. We're going to start off, though, gentlemen, talking about the Brooklyn Nets, because there's a lot there to unpack as we talk about the Nets. Let's go with the Nets defense. Oh, don't laugh yet.
Shocker.
Greg, we haven't shown anything.
Shocker.
This is their defense the last two games, guys. Of course, against the Cleveland Cavaliers, everyone expected the outcome to be different. I draw your attention to that last line, opponent's paint. 64 in game one against the Cavs, 70 in game two. You guys know it is tough to pull off victories when you're allowing that much scoring in the paint. Defense is something that the Nets know they have to work on. In fact, Nets head coach Steve Nash had this to say about some improvements and adjustments for his team.
We just got to refine the things that we've been doing. You know, we haven't done them well enough. We haven't communicated enough. We haven't made second efforts. At times it feels a little bit like we want a solution rather than a fight. And so we just got to make sure our mentality is strong and we stick together. We keep pushing to refine those details, like I keep saying, and then we can improve defensively. I don't think there's a magic answer, no matter what scheme you go to, you have to, it has to be five men in concert, defending actions with intelligence and passion.
Okay, so Greg, we're going to start with you because you had a little response before we even saw the defensive graphic for the Brooklyn Nets. What say you about how they can make some improvements? What has to happen?
It'll be a challenge for them. And again, this is not an excuse, but it's a reality because you didn't have a full training camp. You haven't had an opportunity to create habits and establish a culture defensively. And listen, let's be real. It was never the identity of this Nets team to begin with. And so that's going to be an issue for them moving forward. They're going to have to continue to work on it and emphasize it. And one thing I will say, everybody will point to Kyrie, James, and Durant. Those guys are, honestly, they're plus defenders. They're not bad defenders. Their problem is they struggle to control their defensive backboard. And they don't contest shots with as much veracity. And I'm talking about this group collectively. They're relying on a lot of players that really aren't ready for prime time yet. They're going to take some time to adjust. The game's still easy for Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. Those guys on that side of the floor offensively, they're fine. They're playing well. But on the other side, they're going to have stronger leadership and more accountability. And the problem is, with the way the season's laid out, and Channing, you know this, all you can do as Steve Nash is what he just did in that soundbite, is talk about it. You can't practice. You can't push guys. You got Kyrie coming off injuries. You got Durant coming off an Achilles. And so it's going to be hard for them. Their games are going to be practiced. They're going to have to establish habits and culture within the games. And in doing that, you're going to have some lumps. You're going to get caught a lot. And remember also, they're going to get everybody's best. It's almost like they're the defending champs right now, because what's the entire NBA world talking about, guys? The Brooklyn Nets.
Yep.
The Lakers are playing tonight. They're the defending champs. With arguably the biggest star of the game, we're not talking about that. We're focusing on the Brooklyn Nets.
Channing, we know that defense is something that is accumulated over a period of time, right? You have to build it up with building blocks. You have to work on your strategies. What is the quick fix for this Nets team?
I think, being on a veteran team and guys that are coming off injuries, for me, it's walkthroughs, right? If you don't want guys to be on their feet, we did a lot of walkthroughs in Cleveland where we would watch film and literally go over what we were supposed to do over and over. It was tedious. I did it in Phoenix when we went to Western Conference Finals. it was tedious, but it created habits, like Jay says. And so for me, it would be keep the ball away from the paint. Like make their power comes from keeping the ball in front of them and not let it getting in the paint. And obviously the Cavs are a different team. They have 6 gigantic big men, right? Like a trio of ogres down there, and Jared Allen and Andre Drummond and McGee were having a field day. But for me, it's for them. If they keep people away from the paint and make them settle on jumpers and get out in the fast break, they're almost unstoppable. They have 3 of the game's best offensive players right now. And if you can get a stop and get out and run, teams cannot compete with you.
I'm glad you brought that up, GA. We were talking about this, right? The offensive power of this Nets team. So we all know there's a defensive deficit. They've even acknowledged that. But the offense is so strong. So what is the potential for this team?
I believe this. I don't know that there's ever been a trio as offensively gifted as this trio. And this is not hyperbole. If you go look at the game historically, there have been some great teams. And typically, you might have those 2 guys that are A and A minus, right? Mm-hmm. But they've got 3 A's. Think about it. Kyrie Irving is supposed to be that 3rd guy. He's averaging 29, 6, and 5. And it's not on volume. 52 from the field, 40, I think, 3 from 3, and 97 from the line. Wow. He's been efficient at scoring it. Durant, efficient at scoring it. Harden's been efficient. So offensively, the one advantage they have is they don't have to be as good defensively as some other teams because their offensive firepower is such that they can make up for some of the deficit. But when you get into the postseason, and we got a long way to go, right. And if they're healthy, the problem, though, is they're going to, as you get deeper, you're going to play better teams. And those teams are going to be able to game plan. And they're going to have a little bit of an effect on the greatness of that trio. And so you've got to be able to offset that with some competence on the defensive side of the floor. And I said this earlier, Durant is a plus defender. Harden was 6th in the league in deflections last year and led the league in steals. He's not a broke defender. Kyrie can defend. It's not his staple, but when his mind is right and if he's being held accountable, he's not a horrible defender, but it's not a part of the DNA of this group. And that's where Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni, and I know it sounds like an oxymoron to mention those 2 with defense, but that's the reality. They're going to have to figure out a way to make it about that. If I'm them, I'm not even coaching offense. I wouldn't spend any time on their offense because you don't need plays with those 3 guys. You just play random offense, and they're going to be able to consistently score the basketball and create opportunities for everybody. What you got to do is just focus wholeheartedly defensively to get better, not become great, but they've got to be a top 12 defensive team, I think, to really have a legit chance to come out of the East.
Well, it is still early, so we will continue to watch and monitor the Nets' defensive prowess and see if it can grow. In the meantime, though, Kyrie Irving, who is one of the leaders of this team, had this to say on social media. I won't read the whole thing, but basically it starts off, "We will be on that stage, the stage where the, quote, best of the best meet." The main stage. So you can read on from there. He's basically saying either you're with us or you're against us, chanting, "I come to you," because you have played with Kyrie. Are we to read into this, or is this just one of those throwaways that maybe he's just venting?
I mean, you can do what you want, honestly. I think for him, right, I think everyone's going to kind of dissect it. But for me, I look at it like, hey, we got to, as a team, this is a new situation, not for James Harden or KD or Kyrie, but for the guys off that bench. And so, there is a lot of pressure. And like you said, it's like the Lakers are the champions, yet every single night we're talking about the Nets, what they are doing, what they're not doing. Kyrie, since the beginning of the season, next to James Harden, has been the 2 biggest stories of the NBA, which is wild. So for him, I think he's just trying to say to his teammates and everyone that supposedly or doesn't believe in him, it's like, hey, it's a long season. Let's ride it out. But if you're with us, you're with us. But that's not kind of how life works, right? It's our job to dissect every single game, right? We're not dissecting him as a human. We're dissecting the game. And they lost to the worst offensive team in the league, and they put on a show. So give credit to the Cavs. But as media members, we do have to judge just the play. And so, for me, I'd probably say I'd laugh at him and make fun of him. But as a teammate, it's kind of my shtick. So don't read into it and just kind of, okay, let's see what you say tonight. Don't put a tweet out or Instagram thing out and don't get a win the next night, because then you're going to look crazy.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out shortly what he's going to look like.
Listen, look, don't put it out there now. Look, you get barbecued. Then we really going to talk about it.
Greg, let's talk a little bit about James Harden. We all know what he can do, right? He's averaged triple-doubles before. The assist, I feel like it's an underrated portion of his game. We always talk about his shooting and his ability to get a bucket at any time. But now that he's with another MVP and another All-Star, how important is his playmaking ability?
I think it's critical to this team because it does give that trio balance. And I've said this before. Listen, James Harden's one of the 5 best passers in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not just about, people equate your ability to pass with assists. No, it's the angles he can create, the play ahead type of mindset he has, the next step, the vision he has in terms of throwing guys open, creating easy opportunities for guys who aren't as skilled offensively. And I think he's also a willing passer. I think he's always been, again, it's not like he's played with Kyrie and Kevin Durant before. Like he's never had the kind of firepower that those guys possess. And I think you're seeing how he's played. He's still going to score the basketball, but he's their primary ball handler and facilitator. And don't discount the ability to pass of both Durant and Kyrie as well. I just think all 3 of those guys do everything really well, but I think he is by far the best passer. And I think he's the guy that's already taken the ownership of, I'm going to be the facilitator. You can see it. The ball's in his hands to make plays.
Such an interesting experiment, this Nets team. I'm really eager to see how it blossoms. Now, they actually have an opponent tonight. They're playing the Miami
Not
Heat.
that team. None of them playing,
Unfortunately.
Right? Goodness gracious.
These are all the missing pieces for the Heat. Out tonight for various reasons. You can see under their names. Butler still out due to protocols. Hero, with his neck situation, is out. This will be his 5th game that he's missing due to his neck injury. Bradley, COVID-19. Leonard, again, with the shoulder, and Silva with the hip. So, I mean, this is a different Miami Heat team. Obviously, Butler is a huge piece, but those other pieces, they're not bad either. So what kind of team are you expecting to show up against the Nets, Channing?
I'll tell you this. Listen, they're going to play hard, right? I don't care who's out there. It could be 5 grandmas. Spoelstra and Pat Riley going to have them prepared and have them ready to fight. So for me, anytime you play a Miami Heat team, they're not going to beat themselves. So you're going to have to go out there aggressive, prepared, and they may be missing a bunch of their scoring and defense and whoever, but the guys that are playing are trying to earn minutes. This is a championship caliber team. Goran Dragic is one of my favorite teammates of all time. He can play. Bam is legit. They have other guys on that team who are going to go out and be pros and give themselves a chance. And so for me, it's always interesting to watch them. They could just plug and play guys you've never heard of, and they're going to go in there, stay within themselves, play hard, dive on the floor, and you're going to have to go in there and beat them. They're not going to beat themselves.
All right, it will be interesting. Kendrick Nunn coming off of a great performance, 22 points in the last game. You mentioned Bam Adebayo. He's got a couple of games that I know he wishes he could have gotten back with the 14 points. So we'll see how that goes right here on NBA TV. James, welcome back to CarMax, the pregame show. Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets, he's only averaging 31 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, that's nothing, right? Last 3 games that he's played, he scored at least 30 points. Remember, he sat out the last game trying to rest and manage the Achilles recovery. We'll see what he puts on tonight. Speaking of putting on, our very own Ro Parrish and Charles Barkley had a nice session discussing Chuck's guarantees. Let's listen.
It is Charles Barkley's
Guaranteed.
And it is all presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. You get to witness the pride of Leeds, Alabama, make his picks for the week. Last week, Chuck, we were both 500. You did, okay. Now, you were terrible on MLK Day. You were 1-4. How about those Warriors against those Lakers?
Oh, come on, man. Come on. That was just, that's the first thing I thought about when that game was over, too.
I thought about it too, and I shot you a text. You conveniently ignored me. I appreciate you on that one. I was 1-1, but it is what it is. I'm not the expert.
You shot me a text after the Laker game?
I did, and you conveniently ignored it.
You know why, fool? Because I was working.
You know what? When you write, you write. And let's go ahead and get to work with this week's pick. So we got Brooklyn and we got Miami. Miami's going to Brooklyn for 2 games. You saw the big three when they got together. They combined for 96 points. Kyrie going to shoot that thing hard and gets a triple-double. Miami's been playing a little bit shorthanded. So who will win each game, Brooklyn or Miami?
Brooklyn.
Both?
Both games.
Why?
Guaranteed.
Why they winning both games?
Because, Jimmy Butler hasn't been playing. Tyler Hero hasn't been playing. They can't score enough. So Brooklyn going to win both games. Guaranteed.
Got a side back for you. I know you love Bam. So between him and DeAndre Jordan, who's going to have the higher total of rebounds and blocks?
Are you kidding me? Bam! Guaranteed.
Okay, I like that. Revenge games. Minnesota at Golden State. D'Angelo Russell, Andrew Wiggins, they're both facing the former teams. Who's going to have the higher plus-minus that night?
D'Angelo?
Or would you rather do better total for points, rebounds, and assists between Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, give me D'Angelo on that one.
Okay, I got you. And why do you like him as far as that goes?
Because I think that he's playing against Steph, so he's gonna take that personally. So he's gonna want to play well.
Okay, we got that one marked down. So, triple-double threats. We've seen the Joker is having a ridiculous season, currently averaging a triple-double, but we know Luka the Don, he ain't nothing to be played with. He just passed up Michael Jordan on the all-time triple-double list. So, Denver at Dallas. Who has the better chance to have a triple-double between those two? Who you got?
I'm going to go with Luka because I think he got Porzingis back now. Porzingis only going to get better. So that's going to give him a chance to get another 4 or 5 assists a game. So I'm going with Luka the Don. Guaranteed.
So one of the best weekends in pro football, the NFL Conference Championships are here. You have Tampa Bay going to Green Bay, and then you have the Bills going to Kansas City. So first things first, who's going to win these games?
Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen, the Packers and the Bills. Guaranteed. Okay,
all right, hold that thought for a second. Side bet right here for the Tampa Bay Green Bay game. Who's going to throw more touchdowns, Tampa Tom or Aaron Rodgers?
Tom Brady.
Okay, we'll mark that one down. I'm going to go with a road veto. I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers throws more touchdown passes, and it's not enough. Green Bay will take the loss, though. Tampa Bay's going to win that game on the road.
Okay. Then I'm going to invoke the Chuck veto. No, that's the Chuck veto. No, okay, you don't get to skid on here and say the Bucks going to win. I'm going to let you get away with that. You got that old wacky road veto. This is the Chuck veto.
Hey,
and Aaron Rodgers on Chuck. I'm Chuck vetoing right now.
Listen, you're Johnny Carson. I'm just Jim McMahon. I'm the guy on the side. This is
First
your
of all,
show.
Jim McMahon, hey, listen, fool. Jim McMahon's the quarterback. Ed McMahon is the play. Did you just said he was Jim McMahon? Oh.
You got me on that one. You got me on that one.
I just said, you Johnny Carson, I'm Jim McMahon. Yo, you the quarterback now. You mean
Oh, man. Great times. Charles Barkley, always fun. This is Charles Barkley's Guarantees. Hey, it originated from him, and it can never be duplicated.
Thank you, Jim.
Absolutely never duplicated. Don't forget, Monday right here on NBA TV, Center Court, Heat, Nets, 7:30 tip, Wolves, Warriors, 10 o'clock, all times Eastern, of course. The CarMax pregame show at 7 p.m. Don't miss it. Joel Embiid arriving, Philadelphia 76ers taking on the Detroit Pistons on the road. They haven't been playing great on the road, 2-4 so far, Philly is.
The journey continues. Break the new normal, now we move forward. New chapters, written, leaving history altered. I make your moves, hate to lose. We don't break the rules, break them down. When I cross them over, you can take your shoes. That's a bad man. I crack the defense when the beat.
Welcome to State Farm Saturday night. Miami Heat, Brooklyn Nets coming up right here on NBA TV. Kyrie Irving hoping they can get in the win column. Kendrick Nunn been playing terrific for the Miami Heat in the absence of some of their stars. 22 points he had in the last game, looking like Kendrick Nunn from last season when he was very explosive.
Pre-bubble.
Pre-bubble. Lots of buckets for Nunn. Hey there, guys. I'm Stephanie Reddy. We've got Greg Anthony and Channing Frye alongside. We are going to talk a little bit about the Nets and the Heat. A lot to talk about, right? So we know that the Nets have more offensive power than we've probably ever seen before. But, Greg, what is it about this team that you think is going to make them an elite team aside from the offense?
Well, I think, first and foremost, how often do those guys play? I think that's going to be really critical in terms of them building the stamina and the mental toughness to compete defensively. And I think that's going to be a critical push for Steve Nash with this group because they've got to play. They're not going to be practicing. There just isn't time with the way the schedule's set up. So I think it's critical that they play together and try to create those habits within the game.
Channing, we know 3 guys, right? Harden, Irving, Durant. What do you do against a team like that? How do you even face a team when you have those 3 names in front of you?
Ask Cleveland.
Right. Listen, look, to be honest, you got to win the boards and attack them. Again, be ferocious going to the rim. Don't settle for jumpers. Limit turnovers and get good shots, right? You have to limit their offensive possessions. They are just too dang good. And, you know, for me, Kevin Durant is, to me, I thought the best scorer of my generation. And so if he gets a steal and gets out, you might as well just count that as 3 points, right? And I think that's what makes them so dangerous is like if they get a steal and get out, they have enough firepower to go up and go on these runs, 3, 6, 9, 12. But if you're getting layups or if you're getting offensive rebounds, you know, you're getting a chance to set your defense and make them play in the half court where then again, you're going to play, you know, slow the game down and play your chances. But that'll be the only way to compete with a team with that much firepower.
My goodness. Okay, so the firepower is their defense lacking a little bit. They've even acknowledged it. Let's take a closer look at what the defense has looked like their last 2 games. They played the same opponent in the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland put in some work. I draw your attention to that last line, Greg. Opponents' points in the paint.
Yeah, and have perspective with this. The Cleveland Cavaliers came into those 2 games as the lowest rated offense in the entire league. And so for them to have that, and not to mention they were shorthanded. Yeah, Andre Drummond was looking like Kevin Durant there for a little bit. And they were basically, you can see they're getting whatever they want in the paint, to your point, Stephanie. And they're going to have to just bring more effort. And the thing about defense, it's about disrupting timing and spacing. Basketball is a game of rhythm. And offensively, if you're not disrupting that rhythm, and you allow guys to see the ball go through the basket, well, their confidence is going to rise. And you're already going to get their best because everybody's looking forward to going up against this high-powered offense of the Nets.
Okay, let's see what's happening. They play the Miami Heat, right? Well, they're missing some guys, unfortunately. Out for the Heat tonight, Butler, Hero, Bradley, Leonard, and Silva. You can see the reasons below their names. Hero, this will be his 5th consecutive game missed due to a neck injury. Channing, the Miami Heat, who has to step up for them in the absence of these guys?
I think their greatest attribute is they don't have just one particular guy that could just win you a game. They have a lot of great pros in their cultures. Guys are going to come in and stay within themselves and play hard. And I said this before, but when you go play the Miami Heat, you have to beat them. Right? You have to go in there, be prepared, be focused. Everybody that comes off the bench, whether that's his first string, the guys off the bench, or somebody you've never heard of that they just picked up from the G League, that dude's going to be in the best shape of his life. He's going to know the plays. He's going to know the defensive rotations. He just may not have as much talent as a Bam or as a Myers Leonard. So for me, when I'm going into this game, especially if I'm the Nets, I'm using this as a chance to play a very solid, very well-coached team who's going to play hard, and I'm using this opportunity to get back on the right track. They seen what the Cavs did against them. They need to make those adjustments offensively, defensively, and they need to go out there and go to work.
Greg, what about the Heat? I mean, what do you think needs to happen for them to be successful?
Well, I think Channing made some great points. First and foremost, the Heat, probably the best team in the league in terms of ball movement, spacing, and cutting. they've got 5 guys that all play the game the right way. They try to get the best shot every possession. It's not about somebody going and make a shot. It's about let's create the best shot. And they do a terrific job of that. And I think that guy right there, Duncan Robinson, has a chance to have a big night because he knows he's going to get some good looks, especially in transition, and especially with how they play. They run a lot of their offense through Bam Adebayo, right? And he's averaging about 5 assists a game at that high post, which means it's much harder for you to guard because you are going to have guards screening on guards. So it's going to be a challenge. I think Miami is going to compete tonight.